This is the Discourse, The Removal of Sanskaras, Part 2, entitled The Dispersion and Exhaustion of Sanskaras. In the last chapter, I have explained those methods of removing sanskaras which depend chiefly on the principle of negating the positive sanskaras which veil the truth from consciousness and prevent self-illumination, for which the whole creation came into being. All these methods of negating the positive sanskaras are ultimately based upon the control of the body and mind. Control of the habitual tendencies of the mind is much more difficult than control of physical actions. The fleeting and evasive thoughts and desires of the mind can be curbed only with great patience and persistent practice. But the restraint of mental processes and reactions is necessary to check the formation of new sanskaras and to wear out or unwind the old sanskaras of which they are expressions. Though control might be difficult at the beginning, through sincere effort it gradually becomes natural and easy of achievement. Control is deliberate and involves effort as long as the mind is trying to decondition itself through the removal of sanskaras. But after the mind is released from the sanskaras, control becomes spontaneous because the mind is then functioning in freedom and understanding. Such control is born of strength of character and health of mind, and it invariably brings with it freedom from fear and immense peace and calmness. The mind, which appears feeble when it is wanton and uncontrolled in its functioning, becomes a source of great strength when it is controlled. Control is indispensable for the conservation of psychic energy and the economical use of thought force for creative purposes. However, if control is purely mechanical and aimless, it defeats its own purpose, which is to make possible the free and unconditioned functioning of the mind. Control, which has true spiritual value, does not consist in the mechanical repression of thoughts and desires, but is the natural restraint exercised by perception of positive values discovered during the process of experience. True control is therefore not merely negative. When some positive values come within the focus of consciousness, their claims for being expressed in life generate psychic response and energy, which ultimately remove all the mental tendencies obstructing a free and full expression of those values. Thus, the tendencies for lust, greed, and anger are removed through an appreciative recognition of the value of a life of purity, generosity, and kindness. The mind, becoming accustomed to certain habits of thought and response, does not find it easy to adjust itself to these new claims of its own perceptions, owing to the inertia caused by impressions of previous modes of thought and conduct. This process of readjustment in the light of true values takes the form of what we call controlling the mind. This control is not a mechanical or forcible twisting of the mind. It is an effort of the mind to overcome its own inertia. It is fundamentally creative and not negative in its purpose, for it is an attempt of the mind to arrive at self-adjustment in order to release the expression of true values of life. Creative control becomes possible because the source of light is within everyone, and though self-illumination is prevented by the veil of sanskaras, it is not all darkness even within the boundaries of ordinary human consciousness. The ray of light consists of a sense for true values and guides man onward with varying degrees of clarity, according to the thickness of the veil of sanskaras. The process of the negation of sanskaras is at the same time the process of understanding true values. Spiritual progress is thus characterized by the dual aspect of renouncing false values of the Sanskaras in favor of true values of understanding. The process of replacing lower values by higher values is the process of sublimation, which consists in diverting the psychic energy locked up in the old Sanskaras towards creative and spiritual ends. When the psychic energy locked up in the Sanskaras is thus diverted, they get dispersed and exhausted. The method of sublimation is the most natural and effective method of breaking through the grooves of old Sanskaras, and has the special advantage of having an unfailing interest for the aspirant at all stages. The method of mere negation without any substitution is sometimes likely to be boring and may seem to lead to vacuity. But the method of sublimation consists of replacing lower values by higher ones, and is therefore full of absorbing interest at every stage, bringing an ever-increasing sense of fulfillment. Psychic energy can be sublimated into spiritual channels through 1. Meditation, 2. Selfless service of humanity, and 3. Devotion. Meditation is deep and constant concentration upon an ideal object. In such concentration upon an ideal object, the soul is conscious only of the object of meditation, completely forgetting its mind as well as the body, so that no new sanskaras are formed and old ones are dispersed and exhausted through the psychic activity of dwelling on the object of concentration. Finally, when the sanskaras completely disappear, the soul is individualized, is dissolved in the intensity of concentration, and is merged in the ideal object. There are many forms of meditation according to the aptitude of different persons. The imaginative genius of persons who have to labor hard is often dried up due to overwork. For such persons, the form of meditation which is most suitable consists in disconnecting oneself from the thoughts, and then looking upon these thoughts and the body objectively. After the aspirant is successful in regarding his thoughts and his body with complete objectivity, he tries to identify himself with the cosmic being through constructive suggestions such as, I am the infinite, I am in everything, I am in all. Those who have vivid and lively imaginations can try intensive concentration on some point, but fixing the mind on some point should be avoided by those who have no liking for it. Ordinarily, the psychic energy of the mind is scattered through its diverse thoughts. Meditation on a point is very salutary for the mind to gather itself and settle down, but it is a mechanical process and therefore lacks creative and blissful experiences. However, in the initial stages, this form of meditation might be used as a preparation for other, more successful forms of meditation. The more successful and deeper forms of meditation are preceded by deliberate and constructive thinking about God, the Beloved. Meditation on God is spiritually most fruitful. God can become the object of meditation either in his impersonal aspect or in his personal aspect. Meditation on the impersonal aspect of God is suitable only for those who have a special aptitude for it. It consists in focusing all thoughts on the abstract and unmanifest existence of God. On the other hand, meditation on the personal aspect of God consists in centering all thoughts upon the form and attributes of God. After intensive meditation, the mind might want to settle down not on the object of meditation, but on the steadiness of the expansive peace experienced during meditation. Such moments are the natural result of the fatigue of the faculty of imagination, and they should be effortlessly encouraged. Meditation should be spontaneous and not forced. In the moments of the surging up of the divine impulses, imagination should be let loose and allowed to soar high. The flight of imagination should be controlled only by the set purpose of becoming one with the infinite. It should not be influenced by the currents of the diverse feelings of lust, greed, or anger. Success in concentration comes only gradually, and the novice is likely to be disheartened because he does not get satisfactory results in the beginning. Often the disappointment which he experiences is in itself a serious obstruction to beginning the meditation of the day and to persist in it. Other obstacles like idleness and ill health also may be difficult to overcome, but they can be gotten over by having fixed and regular hours for meditation and steady practice. During early morning or at sunset, the quiet condition of nature is particularly helpful for meditation, but it may also be undertaken at any other suitable time. Solitude is one of the essential conditions for attaining success in meditation. In the world of thought, there is a constant intermingling of thought forms and thought colors. Some mighty ideas tend to strengthen the mind by facilitating integration, whereas some frivolous thoughts are dissipating. The mind is either attracted or repelled by these diverse thoughts in the mental environment. It is advisable to avoid the influence of these variegated thoughts in order to get established in one's own ideal of thought. For this purpose, solitude has immense possibilities. Solitude means economy of psychic energy and increased power of concentration. Having nothing extraneous to attract or repel the mind, you are drawn inwards and learn the art of opening yourself to the higher currents which have the potency of giving you strength, bliss, and peaceful expansiveness. While meditation on the personal and impersonal aspects of God requires withdrawal of consciousness into the sanctuary of one's own heart, concentration on the universal aspect of God is best achieved through the selfless service of humanity. When the soul is completely absorbed in the service of humanity, it is completely oblivious of its own body or mind or their functions, as in meditation, and therefore new sanskaras are not formed. Further, the old sanskaras which bind the mind are shattered and dispersed. Since the soul is now centering its attention and interest not upon its own good, but upon the good of others, the nucleus of the ego is deprived of its nourishing energy. Selfless service is therefore one of the best methods of diverting and sublimating the energy locked up in the binding sanskaras. Selfless service is accomplished when there is not the slightest thought of reward or result, and when there is complete disregard of one's own comfort or convenience or the possibility of being misunderstood. When you are wholly occupied with the welfare of others, you can hardly think of yourself. You are not concerned with your comfort and convenience or your health and happiness. On the contrary, you are willing to sacrifice everything for their well-being. Their comfort is your convenience, their health is your delight, and their happiness is your joy. You find your life in losing it in theirs. You live in their hearts, and your heart becomes their shelter. When there is true union of hearts, you completely identify yourself with the other person. Your act of help or word of comfort supplies to others whatever might be lacking in them. and through their thoughts of gratitude and goodwill, you actually receive more than you give. Thus, through living for others, your own life finds its amplification and expansion. The person who leads a life of selfless service is therefore hardly conscious of serving. He does not make those whom he serves feel that they are in any way under obligation to him. On the contrary, he himself feels obliged for being given a chance of making them happy. Neither for show nor for name and fame does he serve them. Selfless service is completely achieved only when a man derives the same happiness in serving others as in being served himself. The ideal of selfless service frees him from the Sanskaras of craving for power and possession, of self-pity and jealousy, of evil deeds actuated through selfishness. Selfless service as well as meditation are both spontaneous when they are inspired by love. Love is therefore rightly regarded as being the most important avenue leading to the realization of the highest. In love, the soul is completely absorbed in the beloved, and is therefore detached from the actions of the body or mind. This puts an end to the formation of new sanskaras, and also results in the undoing of old sanskaras by giving to life an entirely new direction. Nowhere does self-forgetfulness come so naturally and completely as in the intensity of love. Hence, it has been given the foremost place among the methods which secure release of consciousness from the bondage of sanskaras. Love comprehends in itself the different advantages belonging to other paths leading to emancipation, and is in itself the most distinguished and effective path. It is at once characterized by self-sacrifice and happiness. Its uniqueness lies in the fact that it is accompanied by an exclusive and wholehearted offering to the beloved without admitting the claims of any other object. Thus, there is no room for the diversion of psychic energy, and concentration is complete. In love, the physical, vital, and mental energies of men are all gathered up and made available for the cause of the beloved, with the result that this love becomes a dynamic power. The tension of true love is so great that any foreign feeling which might intervene is at once thrown out. So the expulsive and purifying efficacy of love is unparalleled. There is nothing unnatural or artificial about love. It subsists from the very beginning of evolution. At the inorganic stage, it is crudely expressed in the form of cohesion or attraction. It is the natural affinity which keeps things together and draws them to each other. The gravitational pull exercised by the heavenly bodies upon each other is an expression of this type of love. At the organic stage, love becomes self-illumined and self-appreciative, and plays an important part from the lowest forms like the amoeba to the most evolved form of human beings. When love is self-illumined, its value is intensified by its conscious sacrifice. The sacrifice of love is so complete and ungrudging that it has all to give and nothing to expect. The more it gives, the more it wants to give, and the less it is aware of having given. The stream of true love is ever increasing and never failing. Its simple expression is its simple giving over. The complexities of the beloved are a concern of its best attention and care. Endlessly and remorselessly, it seeks to please the beloved in 1,000 ways. It does not hesitate to welcome suffering in order to satisfy but one wish of the beloved, or to relieve the beloved of the slightest pain of neglect or indifference. It would gladly pine and perish for the sake of the beloved. Careworn and tormented, it waits not to attend to the very body which houses and nourishes it. It brooks no compromise, and the beloved is the concern of its lifetime. The tabernacle of love bursts under unmanageable restlessness and gives birth to streams of love and supreme sweetness until the lover breaks through his limitations and loses himself in the being of the beloved. When love is deep and intense, it is called bhakti, or devotion. In its initial stages, devotion is expressed through symbol worship, supplication before the deities, and reverence and allegiance to the revealed scriptures, or the pursuit of the highest through abstract thinking. In its more advanced stages, devotion expresses itself as interest in human welfare and the service of humanity, love and reverence for saints, and allegiance and obedience to the spiritual master. These stages have their relative values and relative results. Love for a living master is a unique stage of devotion, for it eventually gets transformed into parabhakti, or divine love. Parabhakti is not merely intensified bhakti. It begins where bhakti ends. At the stage of parabhakti, devotion is not only single-minded, but is accompanied by extreme restlessness of the heart and a ceaseless longing to unite with the beloved. This is followed by lack of interest in one's own body and its care, isolation from one's own surroundings, and utter disregard for appearance or criticism, while the divine impulses of attraction to the beloved become more frequent than ever. This highest phase of love is most fruitful because it has as its object a person who is love incarnate and who can, as the supreme beloved, respond to the lover most completely. The purity, sweetness, and efficacy of the love which the lover receives from the master contributes to the insuperable spiritual value of this highest phase of love.